the Thursday flowers she swore were for work. I sell people their best version of a moment. Flowers do that, rewrite a room with a scent and a color and a shape that says, "This is what you meant." My shop is a thin slice of street with tall windows and a cooler that sighs like a sleeper. I know what peonies do to a shy dining room, what ranunculus whisper about second chances, what a single stem of tuberose can get away with if the light is kind. I like the math of it: stem length, focal point, negative space. I like the romance of it too, though I pretend not to. Dana used to lean on the counter and read the names on my delivery tags the way some people read horoscopes. "Lovers," she'd say, tapping a card with a red nail. "Apologies, new money pretending it's old." She ran events for a riverside hotel that behaves like a museum when rich people arrive. We met when her ballroom needed 100 centerpieces that didn't look like 100 centerpieces. I booked her job without blinking. She booked my life without asking. It was easy at first. I sent color into her rooms and she sent thanks into my bed. The trouble started with Thursdays. Every Thursday, a client named Jay North ordered the same bouquet: white anemones, ivory roses, a single stem of tuberose tucked low, ribbon black, card blank. No delivery address, just hotel loading bay by hand. Payment was flawless. The order came through the same anonymous portal we let VIPs use when they want the flowers to pretend they grew out of the table. The first time I thought tasteful. The fourth time I thought ritual. Tuberose is bold. I only add it when a client likes the way it drapes a room with intention. Dana hates it. She says it smells like memories that don't belong to you. The Thursday bouquet insisted on it anyway. "We're feeding a ghost," my assistant Myra joked, her hands deep in eucalyptus like she was washing secrets. "Ghosts tip well," I said, and tied the ribbon in a knot that looks like it knows what it's doing. On the fifth week, the card arrived with a request: "Keep the anemones open. Deliver at 3." The handwriting made a neat, impatient line across the top of the order, a D that hooked back on itself like a promise. I'd seen that hand remake donor lists and shopping lists and notes on my fridge. It was Dana's. Some people recognize voices in a crowd. I recognize the way ink decides. I stared at the card like a florist staring at weather. Then I pretended not to see it. If you work with perishable things, you learn to triage. I let the bouquet be as perfect as it knew how to be and took it to the loading bay at 2:58 because I am obedient to minutes if nothing else. Dana should have been in a fitting or a tasting or one of those meetings where rich people use the word texture to mean money. Instead, she stood in the shadow by the service door, sunglasses on like a disguise, blazer crisp enough to slice. "You," I said lightly, because there is a part of me that performs even when the room doesn't deserve it. "Me," she said, and lifted the bouquet like it might explain itself. "Thank you, we needed the tuberose." "We never need the tuberose," I said, and watched the sentence land. Her mouth made the shape of a laugh and then changed its mind. She tucked the bouquet to her chest and slid through the service door the way people enter rooms they don't intend to admit later. I am not the kind of man who chases. My job requires staying, arranging, letting beauty arrive on its own time. But that night my delivery logs talked to me like a guilty friend. I opened the POS, scrolled the Thursdays, watched the pattern become a silhouette with a pulse. J North, 3 o'clock, loading bay. Card blank until it was. My girlfriend's handwriting on my invoice like a thread someone didn't expect me to pull. I didn't ask Dana at home. We made dinner like people who believe in plates. She set her phone face down like a truce. I told her a story about a bride who wanted her bouquet to smell like the color of champagne. She told me a story about a donor who used the phrase impact optics as if saving the world were a lighting cue. Then she stood between my knees at the counter and let me pull her in. Heat did what it does, simple and sophisticated. I kissed the soft spot under her jaw that makes her drop keys. She pulled my shirt out of my jeans with the tug I like, because it asks and presumes at once. We moved to the bedroom and reminded our bodies what they agree on. After, her hair damp on my chest, she drifted toward sleep. I ran a thumb along her shoulder and thought about white anemones opening for someone's afternoon. The next Thursday, I delivered in person again. At 3:02, the assistant at the door was someone I didn't recognize, a woman with the posture of a professional apology. She took the bouquet from me and hesitated. "He'll want to thank you," she said. "He," I repeated, because pronouns do work. "Mr. North," she added, and then flushed, as if she were a child caught saying the word she isn't supposed to know. "He's busy." "Flowers reduce busyness," I said, and stepped into the corridor before she could perform whatever script she had learned. I know the service hallway like a second city. It leads to every truth the front of house calls an accident. The elevator to the penthouse took forever like expensive metal always does. On the top floor, the hallway wore the hush of money trying to be a secret. Suite 30101's door was ajar. I heard the clear clink of a bottle against glass, the soft murmur of a voice. I heard Dana's laugh in the way you hear your own name in a market. I didn't burst in. I raised my hand and knocked like a polite confrontation. The assistant opened the door a sliver and then set her hand on the knob like a bouncer. Behind her, the room overlooked the river like a god. The bouquet sat on a credenza, tuberose rising like a dare. Dana stood near the window, hair up, the navy dress that makes donors do predictable things. A man I knew only from headlines and my shop's credit card processor stood beside her, jacket off, tie absent, the kind of smile money practices in mirrors. "Micah," Dana said, my name becoming a soft request. "Not for calm, for precision. We're in the middle of a walkthrough." "For flowers?" I asked, eyes on the bouquet. "For a private dinner," the assistant said too quickly. "On a Thursday," I said, "with tuberose." The man smiled in the way practiced men do when they decide the situation can be solved with charm. "You do fine work," he said. "The ribbon is a signature." "So is the card," I said, and watched Dana's throat move. "We can talk later," she said, a plea disguised as an agenda. "I'm free now," I said, and felt every glass in the room notice us. The assistant did her job and closed the door, leaving me and the river on one side, my life on the other. I stood there with the little cart of empty buckets and thought about how flowers are designed to die, how they spend their whole existence making it look like a choice. That night Dana came home with a face that belonged to someone who kept herself intact because she didn't have time to break. She set her keys in the dish, towing off heels with the kind of pragmatism that used to make me hard just for the promise of surviving the world together. "I'm sorry," she said, as if apologizing for light. "For what?" I asked, and let the quiet fill with the smell of tuberose I'd carried home in my lungs. "For not finding the order of telling this in a way that didn't make us both look stupid," she said, and sat at the table like a person reporting to a board. "The donor, Julian North, is good for the hotel. He's good for the foundation. He likes patterns. He likes Thursdays and clean lines and singular gestures. The flowers were part of a story he wanted to tell about generosity. That's the work part. The not work part is that I liked being the reason the room made sense to him. And once, I liked being the reason his hands forgot they were good at money and became good at something else." "Once," I said. "Once," she said, which is both tiny and endless. And it was a mistake I would have reframed into a metaphor if I thought I could live with that version of me. I wrote the card because I panicked about the tuberose and wanted you to get it right without dragging you into the picture. And the balcony, I said. She closed her eyes like the word was a shot. Yes, balcony wind, a story I was telling myself about not belonging to anything. And now, I managed, because I have learned to tune for the note that comes after the dissonance. I belong here, she said, eyes on mine. If you still want to share the same vase with me after I tell you I put our water somewhere else for an hour. The trouble with being in love with someone articulate is that they can say the worst things beautifully. I poured 2 glasses of the cheap white we use to lower the temperature of rooms and handed her one. I want accuracy, I said. Then I want sleep. Then maybe the kind of touch that doesn't ask to be a solution. And tomorrow I want rules that insult us both equally. She nodded. Accuracy, I met him 3 months ago. We flirted like adults do when the lights are dim and the microphones are off. 4 Thursdays ago it stopped being flirtation and became mouths. Last Thursday I wrote your name on a card and told myself it was logistics. Today I figured I could deliver the thing and end the idea in the same hour. I am ending it. I don't need witnesses. I need follow-through. Rules, I said, because lists calm me the way water steals a stem. I don't sell flowers to your secrets. You don't use my inventory to decorate a mess. Thursdays are ours unless the city is on fire. If a donor is going to make you laugh the way you laughed today, you text me the laugh before he hears it. That last one's dumb and excellent, she said, and I felt some part of the tension in me smile despite itself. We didn't kiss in a movie way. We stood very close and let our foreheads touch until our bodies remembered that we had waited this long to raise our voices and could maybe wait longer. In bed, she put her hand on the back of my neck and squeezed. I felt the heat unfurl low, that soft build that isn't fireworks so much as a tide. We moved slow enough that the room had time to join us. When we stopped, it was on purpose, not from exhaustion. The next Thursday, I sent Myra to the loading bay with a bouquet of sunflowers, loud, sunny, impossible to mistake for an apology, and a card that read, "For the community garden on 9th." Dana texted me a photo of the garden beds with the flowers in jam jars, kids in ball caps grinning like summer had chosen them. "We redirected," she wrote. I stared at the image until my chest did that strange, light heaviness hope causes. Julian North came into my shop the week after, alone, too expensive to be anonymous but polite enough to try. He watched me wrap a bouquet for a woman who'd chosen coral dahlias like a promise to herself. When she left, he cleared his throat. "My hotel likes your work," he said. "My life likes not mixing clients and acts of God," I said. He blinked, then nodded. A man who understands being refused is an option he should learn to carry without breaking anything. "Understood," he said, and put a hand to his cuff in a gesture that any good florist recognizes as a person wanting to do something with their hands that isn't harmful. "I wish you both well," he added, the last word meaning more than etiquette. That night I brought home tuberose. I tucked it under ranunculus and graves of green like absolution. Dana wrinkled her nose and then laughed. "You're a menace," she said. "I want to reclaim the smell," I said. "I want our rooms to decide what it means now." She stood behind me and slid her hands around my waist, mouth at my ear, her breath doing that thing it does to a spine like mine. "You're a florist," she said. "You always think meaning is something you can arrange." "Someone has to try," I said, and turned in her arms to try in the way I'm better at. We kissed like we were learning a new language, familiar words in a different grammar. Her thigh found the place it always does. My hands found the back of her dress zipper, And I moved slowly because you either treat a zipper like a solution or like an invitation. We let it be the second thing. We still fight. We still loop back to the hour when she chose a balcony and I chose to deliver to it. Sometimes I catch her looking at me like she's checking whether I'm still arranging, still making beauty out of brief lives. Sometimes she catches me smelling tuberose in a room where there isn't any. When that happens, she texts me a laugh, the one only I hear, and I send back a photo of something ugly turned beautiful on my work table. A thistle softened by a brass vase, a scarred branch made central instead of hidden. A month later, the hotel asked for 100 centerpieces that didn't look like 100 centerpieces. I said yes because that's the work, and because I want my flowers in her rooms again. We built them together at night in my shop, hip to hip, her blazer on a stool, my cooler fogging the windows with breath. We chose white cosmos instead of anemones, chose herbs for scent, chose narrow vases so people could see each other without having to move a jungle. At dawn, we stood among them and drank coffee, and watched the light turn the petals into small declarations. When she left for the install, she kissed my wrist where the green-stained elastic digs in and said, "Thursdays are ours." It wasn't a vow. It was a schedule. I wrote it on the calendar in a fat black marker because some week's romance is making time and defending it with dumb ferocity. People walk into my shop and ask for forgiveness by the stem. I sell it to them, tied and watered, and I mean it when I say, this will help. It doesn't fix anything. It gives the room a chance to stop making it worse. Some days that's all you get. On Thursdays now, I close early. We buy whatever fruit the market insults by being too ripe. We take it to the roof and eat with our fingers. Sometimes we talk about the day like we're showing each other the backs of our hands. Sometimes we don't talk at all. When the river wind finds us, she leans against me and I breathe her in, tuberose or not, and think about how flowers live by dying beautifully, and I am not interested in that kind of love anymore. I want the kind that needs water and scandal, and a little dirt under the nails. The hotel will always have loading bays. Donors will always have Thursdays. My cooler will always sigh. That's fine. Our house has a vase by the sink now that always has something fresh in it, even if it's just one honest branch. Every morning I change the water and clip the ends and watch how the arrangement forgives my hands. And when Dana laughs in the hallway and flips her phone face up without thinking, I call out, "Send me that one." And she does, and it lands in my pocket like a bloom I remembered to order in time.